Hello, and welcome to another episode of Todd Talks. And Todd Talks people listen. Hopefully. What's that you say? There's something different in my background. Can you point to where it is? Is it over there? Maybe? That's right. As of now, Todd Talk is now 100% more death battlefield. I got not only the official Death Battle t-shirt, and I'm going to be getting another one soon. I have the official limited edition 100th episode ish uh, poster, which was made for the 100th episode. And you can see all the skulls in the background of all the things that they have killed. Oh, pretty much. Yeah. Oh, and Jocelyn's there too. Hi, Jocelyn. But yeah, I finally got it. It looks good. I was actually relieved. I honestly didn't think it would fit in the poster containers I had. I had two, but it did. Barely made it in, but it's here. And I'm going to have with me now in every single Todd Talk that I do, both preview and reaction videos. So, and then hopefully whenever I get my new webcam, you'll actually be able to see it in better detail. But seriously, it is on the Rooster Teeth store right now. Get it before it's gone. Okay? So, here we are, episode 101 of Death Battle, and it is the Battle of the Robot Overlords. Ultron from Marvel versus Sigma from the Mega Man universe. This is actually one that is easily one of the most requested death battles ever, especially in recent year, I would say, because of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, where Sigma and Ultron were not only the antagonists, they actually fused together to become Ultron Sigma. So it makes perfect sense that they would make this a death battle, not just because of that, but because it just makes sense when you really think about it. So let's get started. There once was a man named Hank Pym, and Hank Pym was one of the most brilliant minds in all the Marvel Universe. And because of this, he was not only a great inventor, he not only created the Pym particles, which are a massive part of the Marvel Universe, but he also was a member of the Avengers. In fact, he was one of the founding members of the Avengers. But there was one little problem with Hank Pym. He wasn't exactly mentally stable. You see, while he was a great inventor and his inventions cannot be denied, he also had a bit of inferiority complex, and by a bit, I mean a lot. And this was only fueled by his rivalry with Tony Stark. And as he battled more and more bad guys, he wanted to create a artificial intelligence that would surpass everything else. And the spark was lit. And he created Ultron. Now, Ultron was originally meant just to be a helpful artificial intelligence, not unlike what Jarvis was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And for the record, I still hate that in Age of Ultron, the movie, not the comic, they had Tony and Bruce make Ultron. To this day, I am still miffed about that. I even wrote a scathing piece about how I was furious because Hank Pym was relegated to background sub-character status. I love Michael Douglas. Great guy, great actor. Hate that he was Hank Pym because Hank Pym is the creator of Ultron. I don't care what you say. Moving on. So, the problem was, not unlike what Tony did with Jarvis and various other AIs that he has made in the comics and movies and such, he fashioned Ultron off of his own mind. When you're got an inferiority complex and a bit bipolar, that's not a good idea of a base plate for a robot, and a sentient robot at that. So sure enough, Ultron turned evil. What are the odds? And he began his lifelong quest to eradicate humanity and replace it with a robot-dominated universe. Not world, universe. Let me say that again. Universe! Okay? This guy thinks big, all right? Now, one of the things about Ultron that cannot be ignored is the fact that he has come back so many gosh dang times. All right, he is without a doubt one of the most powerful villains in the entire Avengers roster. Okay, you know, like the top tiers. There's Galactus, there's Thanos, there's Ultron, there's Kang. Doom is also up there. I guess I would say Loki. Yeah, but Loki kind of gets beat a lot. Okay, anyway, but Ultron, he's in that top tier. There's a good reason because he keeps coming back, and every time he comes back, he seems to come back stronger and more powerful and more deadly than ever. Case in point, in the early versions of Ultron, like Ultron like 1 through 5, I think it was, he only had a regular robot body. What Hank Pym built him with, or what he could scrounge around uh, in the areas that he was at. Eventually, his body evolved to such a state that it would become adamantium, which is the one they're using in the death battle. They have confirmed this. And adamantium, as you all know, hopefully, is the Wolverine's super metal, as Boomstick would say. Hi, Boomstick. Um, and it's virtually indestructible. Virtually. So, yeah, he's like really hard to kill now. And as if to add this, to add more insanity to all of this, he has a molecular rearranger inside of his body, which actually makes his form somewhat malleable, which makes damage even harder to do. And if that was enough, it could also technically heal him. So yeah, he's like really, really hard to kill. But it goes beyond his body, because his body can be damaged if you have the right people with you. For example, Scarlet Witch was able to literally hex the insides of Ultron. Wonder Man used his own force against him, Ultron's own force against him, to damage his internal circuitry and thus beat him. But it takes a lot. Wonder Man is, hopefully, if you don't know, is actually one of the most powerful Avengers, and he became a pacifist because of his power and his own mental issues. But that's another death battle preview, I hope. Um, so yeah, it takes a lot. Let me put it this way: Thor has gone up against Ultron and lost. That's gonna be important later on. Now, another thing that defines Ultron is his vast intelligence. Again, he was based off the mind of Hank Pym, but he's learned since then. He has evolved his body and his mind to such levels that he arguably, is one of the smartest minds in the entire Marvel universe. He has outsmarted the Avengers, which of course has Tony Stark, Hank Pym, sometimes Mr. Fantastic, Amadeus Cho. He's beaten a lot of smart people. All right. Oh, Vision, which is his own creation, which was turned against him, which seems to happen a lot actually. But the point is, he is a genius level intellect, and he knows how to manipulate a situation, work a situation, and outthink a situation should it be brought upon him. And again, he was based off Hank Pym, who is definitely one of the most smart people in the Marvel universe. So even just his base form is clever. Now, imagine him like across an infinite amount of rebuilt Ultrons, which of course brings you to the other thing. Ultron likes Ultron bots. Okay, not unlike Doom bots or certain other robotic creations that we see in the Marvel universe. Ultron loves to make copies of himself, and his primary thing is he'll make copies of himself so he can do various attacks on the world, and it works. But here's the rub: if you remember, if for those who've only seen the movies, if you remember Age of Ultron, he can transfer his consciousness to any body that he wants. That is literally one of his things. He can go into any computer system and embed a part of himself into them. It's not even that hard. It's actually one of his defaults, if you will. It's why he can't die in many, many ways, because all he has to do is leave a tiny, tiny part of himself in one of the Ultron bots or in one of his children, long story, uh, and he can come back. And he usually leaves a subroutine in their brains that makes them rebuild Ultron's body. Again, why he can't die, theoretically. So he has, and then as if that wasn't enough, in later versions he has actually come up with spores that can infect living people, turning them into versions of Ultron. Still not enough for you? Okay. In the Rage of Ultron graphic novel, an older version of Ultron, which was back in the 70s, I think it was like Ultron 5 or 7, came back to Earth, which is now in modern times, and not only beat the Avengers, but actually fused with Hank Pym. Now they're not using this one in the Ultron fight, but it's important to know why this is important, because he has access to the Pym particles now, which they could use in the death battle. It's not confirmed as of yet. Um, Not only that, but just the fused version, which is again an older version of Ultron, fused with Hank Pym, was able to beat all the Avengers and trick them once again to thinking he was dead. So, and I know you think, okay, Todd, he's fought the Avengers a lot, but he's lost a lot, right? I mean, what has he really done? Well, if you must know. This one time, he actually got his consciousness drawn in by the Phalanx, who is a very powerful cosmic threat. And the point was that they wanted to corrupt the Ultron software so that they could use it for himself. Yeah, like that's gonna work. So Ultron took over the Phalanx, recreated its own body, literally was beloved by the Phalanx because they thought it was their father, long story. And then he went off and decided to conquer the entire Kree Empire. If you don't know the Kree Empire, look it up. It's huge. And Ultron conquered it. All of it. Okay, like 95% of it. And then he, to prove how much he owned them, he put an energy shield around the entire planet. Still not enough. Okay. You know the Age of Ultron movie? Well, that was named after an Age of Ultron comic. And in that comic, Ultron won. Ultron literally took over the world. He launched a surprise attack on New York, where, of course, most of the Marvel heroes are, killed most of humanity, and literally just took over. Period. End of story. Literally. He won. It was so bad, ladies and gentlemen, that Kang, who was a time-traveling villain of the Avengers, Kang was so desperate to beat Ultron that he went and did time after time after time after time and brought in every single person he could think of. Doctor Doom, the Avengers, Fantastic Four, everyone, every single weapon. He brought them to the Age of Ultron to beat Ultron and lost every single time. Kang, who is his own master manipulator and uses the future to his advantage, he could not beat Ultron with everyone in the Marvel Universe behind him. Now, if you're curious about how they actually beat him, it was actually a little bit of a time-traveling tomfoolery where Hank Pym devised a virus to like erase Ultron's consciousness via a certain state of being. It was really complicated, but they did win, but it was via a lot of tomfoolery and Hank Pym getting advice from a future version of Wolverine. So, yeah. So, Ultron is a bit of a boss. Bit of a boss. Now, oh, what's that? You want weaknesses? No. No. I mean, arrogance, but then again, he's based off Hank Pym, so what do you want? His internals can be damaged to an extent, so there's that. And there are certain power sets like Scarlet Witch, which are more, that's not the word, capable of defeating Ultron versus someone like Thor who has just brute force. So there's that. All right, moving on. Sigma. In the year 21, humanity has developed a new style of life with the Reploids, or replicated life beings, and naturally that goes all wrong. And so a doctor named Dr. Kane decided to develop a Maverick Hunter and what to help humanity survive these rogue attacks. And that the commander of the Maverick Hunters was Sigma. Sigma was designed to be a capable strategic military leader, and he did his job until he met Zero, who was infected with the Zero virus, which was the birth of the Maverick virus, which would turn all the Reploids rogue. Sigma beat Zero, but in the process had his morality lines swapped. I'm trying to remember the Zero episode. Anyway, he basically comes infected with the virus. But instead of just becoming straight up evil, he becomes evil with a twist. He believes that he's doing the right thing by bringing the humans down and allowing Reploid life to live. And he's very, very capable of doing this. Unfortunately, there are these two guys named X and Zero, and they don't like what he's doing. So Sigma, via his numerous incarnations in the Mega Man X series, has done time and time again to use whatever means he can to bring down humanity and put Reploids and himself on the top of the food chain. Now, what needs to be said first and foremost was that Sigma was developed to be a leader. He was developed to be the perfect leader to stop the Maverick threat. And he did so because for a while he was doing exactly what he needed to do, killing all the Mavericks, making sure there were no human or Reploid casualties outside the Mavericks, obviously. And that makes him in battle a very hard opponent to beat because he's built to beat people, literally. All right, he's built to be the perfect soldier, if you will, and the perfect commander. So his intelligence is off the charts. Not only that, he's actually very charismatic. He likes to inspire his Reploid armies, and he's used his charisma to trick numerous people, including Zero and X at times. So he knows how to talk the talk, if you will. Now, the other thing that he is known for is his refusal to die. Let's call it that. Because in every Mega Man X game that he appears in, his body is different. All right, and every body is different, not just in physical appearance, but in like abilities. He has developed himself to wield different kinds of weapons, so he preferred swords and scythes and other bladed weapons. And because of his own consciousness, he, as long as it exists, it can endure. It can go to another piece of technology and endure. That sounds familiar, actually. So he keeps dying and he keeps coming back. Now, there is a couple catches to this. The first one being is he has to have something to connect to. So if there's no technology around, he technically can die, which is actually what happened to him in the Mega Man X8 because he died on the moon where there was no technology to inhabit. Oops. The other problem is that every time he comes back, though he claims to maintain his mind, it's not exactly so. Most people acknowledge that every time Sigma comes back, he comes back more reckless, more dangerous, yes, but more flawed. His programming isn't as refined as it was, and so he actually becomes more and more desperate and aggressive and less strategic. And so his bodies actually reflect that, including in X6, where he's basically a zombie. So, but again, as long as he has his consciousness, he's going to keep coming back. He'll make his body again, and he'll keep coming back. And because of this, he has done numerous incredible feats, including almost setting a civil war between the Maverick Hunters and the Reploid Force, which was a good batch of Reploids who wanted to help the Maverick Hunters. He has destroyed numerous cities in order to, achieve his goals. He has killed innumerous Reploids and Maverick Hunters on his own because he is that skilled. And he has come close to conquering the world multiple times. So there is, while Dr. Wily is maybe the most famous Mega Man villain, Sigma is a very close second because Sigma has pushed X, Zero, Axel, various other heroes to the limit and has caused some very significant damage to their world. So, needless to say, you don't want to mess with Sigma. All right, so the question is, who wins between Ultron and Sigma? Because they have a lot of things that they have in common. They both have incredible intellects. This is proven. They refuse to die. This is also true. They both have the ability to spread their consciousness to other machines. But here's the difference. I know we shouldn't do scaling. Scaling is very tricky to do, but here's the thing. Zero is said to be better than Mega Man, right? Zero was literally built to be better than Mega Man in every way. So Mega Man has been noted to go about 230 million miles per hour, and Zero has to be faster than that, right? Okay. So, and then strength was, I can't remember the calculation that they had for his strength, but he has taken a lot and endured a lot. So Sigma has harmed Zero, which means he has to be as fast as Zero and potentially as strong as Zero minus certain aspects. But that being said, Zero is not light speed, and his force certainly has limits. Ultron has beaten Thor, who is many times the speed of light thanks to his hammer swing. Not to mention his force is gargantuan because of Mjolnir. Not to mention he can harness lightning and all of that. And he's hit Ultron full force and failed. All right. So as great as Zero is as a rival to Sigma, Ultron has faced worse and survived. Again, if because they have to use the compilation, that means they have to take Age of Ultron into account. And Age of Ultron, Age of Ultron, uh, be again Kang, Doctor Doom, Fantastic Four, all the Avengers, pretty much every Avenger, and conquered the world. He did it all by himself in his Ultron army. Yes, but like this was the core Ultron going up against Kang and this massive army that he had constructed multiple times. He beat them all. Not to mention the fact that, because of his robot bodies, which Sigma technically doesn't do, he makes new bodies for himself, but he doesn't make a lot of clones. Ultron does that. And so all he has to do is create new bodies, and he can just keep transmitting them to one another until he wins. Oh, but Todd, that's outside help. Not exactly, because Ultron has how do they call it? Technomancy, something like that. It's basically he has like technography or something like that. I can't remember the word, but he has the ability to literally take materials that are around him and augment his body or create new bodies for himself. He has that power, and actually this was enhanced during his time with the Phalanx. So his ability to create things, augment his own body, or transform things into new bodies is potentially infinite. And this is going to be a battle that has, machinery and, plenty of metal around them. So Ultron quite easily could just use the surroundings to either make his body better or make new bodies for himself and then win. And then while Sigma and Ultron both have ways to take over robotics, it's very logical to think that they can't take over each other. And even if they could, it wouldn't be a permanent solution. So the real question would be like, how are they going to kill each other if their consciousness can be spread everywhere? Well, let's just ignore the infection part of it and say that they do try and leave. One of them is going to figure it out. All right. Either Sigma is going to figure out that Ultron can transfer bodies and then try and kill them all, which will fail, and Ultron will try to realize, oh, his consciousness is still out there, and he'll just grab it. He has the ability to infect himself into computer systems. And so all he has to do is know where Sigma is going, infect that computer, and then he can delete the virus. And that virus is Sigma. So as good as Sigma is, and as powerful as Sigma is, Ultron is better capable, better body. His adamantium is tough. All right, and based on what we've seen in Mega Man series, their metals aren't even close to adamantium. So Sigma does not have the strength, the durability, and the finesse, I guess you should say, to beat Ultron. So my pick is Ultron. And we are all screwed. So there you go. And with that, I am ending this episode of Todd Talk. Who do you think is going to win between Sigma and Ultron? Are you excited for the battle? I'm 95% sure this is a 3D battle, so I think it's gonna be really good visually. So let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. So I thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I know you were listening. Hope you liked the poster, and I'll see you around.